Hey everyone, so in this video you're going to look at how you take your map layers that you've created in the Fisheries project and export those map images, or export those layers into maps, and then bring those maps images into your StoryMap so that you can turn in the assignment. All right, so at this point you're done with all of the analysis for this project, and we're working with our final layers here. From part 1 is port impacts total quantity of fish, port impacts total fisherman days, and now we also have port impacts Stellwagen. So we've got to create 3 maps out of this. So the way that you make map exports in QGIS is you use the layout function. So to get to this, you go up here to project and you do new print layout. You're also going to see Layout Manager here, and you're going to use this in just a minute. After we make our first map, then we can go and access the Layout Manager, because we're going to use our first map and save that also as a template, which makes making the other maps a little bit easier. So click on New Print Layout, and we're going to call this Total Quantity of Fish by Port. So we're going to call this total quantity of fish by port, and we don't have to put underscores here anymore. In all the previous parts of the assignment, we had to use underscores to separate words, and that was because we were working with file names. And in GIS, we cannot have spaces in the file names. But once we're working with the map layouts, we can just use normal phrases again. So type in to create a print layout title, total quantity of fish by port, and click OK. In this window that pops up, this is your layout window, and this is how we create our actual maps, where we can add our legends and north arrows and all that kind of stuff. So what you'll do first is this button here on the left menu bar, add a new map to the layout. You're going to click that, and you just kind of start up here near the top left corner, and you're going to drag and drop it, fill it up most of the way, which just leaves a nice border around the edge there. And then you let it go. And what it puts into the layout view is whatever happens to be in your QGIS project at the moment. And what we need to do is we need to create 3 separate maps. So we've got to just do our 3 layers that we're interested in individually. So first, let's just look at the total quantity of fish by port, which means we've got to remove some of these other layers from the map. Before we do that, just so that you can get used to this layout interface, we have this button here, which is called Move Item Content. If you click that and move the map around, that moves your map display within your layout frame here. So that is where, if you need to pan your map for any reason, you can also zoom in or zoom out on the map frame, and that doesn't change where the map window is placed in your what's going to be your export image. That just looks at the item itself. So what you want to do is to have this zoomed in just enough so that we see Bucks Harbor up here at the north, and then New Bedford down here towards the south, and we can leave some white space over here on the right side, because that's where we're going to have our legend. If you look up here where it has the select move item cursor, if you click that, that actually moves that map window around on your page. And so that's where you want to just leave this centered in the middle of your window here. So those are our 2 ways that we navigate our maps. Our zoom in here, that's going to just zoom in to the map window itself. That's not changing how the exported map will actually look. If we wanted to zoom in on the map window itself, we would do this zoom window here, which I'm not going to do right now, just to keep it more simple. All right, so we've now that we have a nice centered, we've got it zoomed at a nice level. Let's work with our layers here. So first of all, we need to turn off the layers that we don't want to actually see on the map. So let's go back over to our main QGIS window. I'm going to uncheck total fisherman days, and I'm going to uncheck Stellwagen the port impacts in Stellwagen. I'm going to leave coast geog symbolized because that's our New England coastline, and we need that for reference. So really we're just looking at coast geogs, the coastline geography, and our port impacts, total quantity of fish layers. So I'm going to toggle back to my layout window, and I'm going to use this toolbar up here, the refresh button, to refresh the view. Once I have that, I'm ready to insert a legend. So on the left menu bar over here, you'll see the icon to add a new legend to the layout. You click that, and again, you have to drag and drop where you want that legend to appear. So we can put that, you can just drag a window that looks kind of like this, and we see it places it, and it goes too far down, and you see how it extends past, below that window box here. That means anything outside of that white window frame will not actually appear in the image when you do the export. And so you need to make sure that anything that you want to appear on the map export is actually within that white rectangle here. All right, but we see that we've got probably a little bit too much because we just want one map that shows the total quantity of fish. And so even though we've only made visible the quantity layer, we have a legend for all of the other layers that are actually in our layer window, even if they're not visible. And so we just need to remove those layers that are not being used right now. So what you do is in your layout, in our layout manager, go over to the right side and you'll see the item properties tab. And when you do that, scroll down and you'll see legend items. And you're going to click this box for only show items inside linked map. And once you do that, then your legend automatically updates to just show the port impacts, quantity of fish, and our coast geography layer. Once we do that, we can see that we need to edit the display title for these layers, because look at this. This would not be a very good professional map if you just exported an image and it said coast geog underscore P, right? That doesn't make any sense. So we need to make our labels pretty useful. So let's go in, and you're going to see back in our items properties under legend items, all we need to do is to highlight coast geog underscore P, double click it, and we get to change that name of the item text, and we're just going to change it to New England coastline. Nicely written, capitalized, no underscores, where it can just read nicely. All right, and then it updates automatically in our legend in the map. We're going to do the same thing here for our port underscore impacts dash total quantity of fish. So for this one, we're just going to change it to ports total quantity of fish. Say ports, let's do a colon, total quantity of fish. You click OK, and that's automatically going to update there as well. If you want to change the location of the placement of the legend, make sure that this move button is highlighted, and you can just drag and drop that. Next, why don't we put a north arrow here by clicking on the north arrow, and we just drag and drop that, and we place that here. All right, we should put a scale bar in here too. So here's the button, here's the menu item for scale bar. You click that. You don't have to drag it in, you just click it, and then you click down and you drag it over here. And a good idea, let's leave it at kilometers, and we're just going to make sure that this is stretched out to 100 kilometers, and that is going to be good for us right there. All right, so we are almost done. Now you might be noticing that I have labeled the ports here. So let's go in and label the ports. You probably wouldn't have done this yet on your own. So let's go in and make sure that we have our ports labeled. And after you do that, make sure that you refresh the view just so that the labels will show up. So I'm going to run through that here really quick, how to do labels. All right, now let's say that you don't have any labels starting out here and you've put in your legend and your scale bar. How do we get the labels there? So toggle back over to your main QGIS window, go to our ports, impacts total quantity of fish, properties. You're going to go to the labels tab, and over here you're going to switch from no labels to single labels, and you want the value to be port name. And we're going to just leave those, leave all of the text options default for now, just to keep it simple. and we're going to click OK. So when I click OK, you see the text here on the screen. Clearly, in some of these places, the labels are going to overlap each other. They're overlapping parts of the coastline. And if we were doing a real professional cartography job, we would probably doing creating these labels in a different program like Adobe Illustrator. But we can do some basic cartography skills using our GIS softwares, and we can try to do our best when we're just using the GIS software. But just keep in mind that professional map design is usually not done in the GIS software. But we can see that this isn't really not that useful, and it's kind of hard to see a lot of these labels. So let's do one more thing just to make it a little bit more visible. Go back into the properties for the layer. And when you go into the labels menu under properties, go down here to the shadow options, and you're going to click this box for draw, drop shadow. Don't change, just leave all of these options as they are. Just click that box for draw, drop shadow. You click OK. And then, a lot of these labels are still overlapping things in a way that's not too helpful, but we do have a little bit of drop shadow around the text that makes it a little bit easier. And, for right now, that's going to be good enough for us. So toggle back to your layout manager, and you'll see that our labels are not showing up. So you get them by going up here to the refresh button and refresh it, and your labels are going to appear. All right, so we've got a good setup here. What we need to do is save this as a template because we want to put the other layers here, but we want to keep everything else about the map the same. We want the New England coastline to be in the same place. We want the legend to be set up in the same way, the north there, the scale. We don't want to have to redo all of that stuff all over again. So let's save this as a template next. And you do that by clicking on this button in the menu at the top where it says Save as Template. And you're just going to choose the folder on your in your computer wherever you're working, and I'm going to call this Fisheries template. And that window is, once you click Save, the layout window is going to go hidden behind your main QGIS window. And then if that happens, just toggle back and bring it back to the front. Once this happens, now we are ready to export the image as export the map as an image. So here's our button up here at the top where it says Export as Image. You're going to click that, and you're just going to leave this as total quantity of fish by port. The format is a PNG. That's an image file that you're going to use to import into the StoryMap. Click Save. For now, keep all those options the same. Click Save again, and then it's going to be, that image is going to be saved into your file. All right, at this point we can do our second map image. If you want to save the project, you can save that. You might get to this, if you get an error message like that, just click OK. So from here, you can click the Layout Manager button here, or if you're in your main QGIS window, if you happen to have closed that layout window, go down the project and open Layout Manager. Either way, you're going to get to this box here, the Layout Manager. So here you see the total quantity of fish by port, and that is the map that we just made. And we're going to make a new layout, but this time we're going to use it from our template. So from our new From Template box here, do this drop-down menu, click Specific. If that box pops up, just close that window that pops up. Here you see that it has automatically filled in mine for Fisheries, my Fisheries template. If you got nothing here, if this is just blank, then click the three dots and then navigate to your window. It'll open up and you can navigate to the window where you have saved your template. You're going to select that and it'll fill that in here. Once you have your Fisheries template here in this box, click Create. It's going to ask you for the name of this map, and we're going to type in Total Fisherman Days by Port. Click OK, and that's going to bring up our layout window again, and we know that we've got a new one because it's called Total Fisherman Days by Port, but still we've got our old, our first map is still in here. So all you got to do is go back to your main QGIS window. Now we're going to uncheck total quantity of fish, and we're going to check our total fisherman days. Now we go back here, we're going to refresh that view, and as long as you've saved everything in your template correctly, it's going to show up and it's just going to automatically swap out those symbols with your port impacts for total fisherman days. All right, so if you got this, in case that didn't show up correctly, just go back to the way that we set up the first layer in the first map, and you'll just do that over again for this layer. Next, you just update our legend. So our legend, you'll see that New England coastline, that's still there because nothing changed there, but since we swapped out the layer, it has that our original layer name here, port underscore impacts, and so we do need to change that. So use our select cursor here to select the legend, and in the right side we're going to scroll down under item properties. We're going to go down to our legend items for port impacts, and we're going to double click that name, and we're going to follow the same style that we did for the first map, and we're just going to call this ports : total fisherman days. Click OK, and that's going to update. And then from there you can go up here to our export as image button. You're going to click that. It's going to fill in that name automatically and keep that as a PNG file, and you click save. Keep those options the same for now and click save again, and second map is done. So next we got to do our third map of the percentage of fisherman days that each port worked in Stellwagen. So this time let's just make I'm just going to click the layout manager button here, and then if this works for you, then you're going to see Fisheries template is automatically filled in again. If that's the case, you can go ahead and click create. If this box is blank right here, then click the three dots and find where your Fisheries template is, making sure that it says specific here in this drop down menu. I'm going to click create, and we're going to call this percent of work each port does in Stellwagen. All right, yeah, and you've probably noticed by now that there's different spellings for Stellwagen. Some of our original our original data was actually misspelled, Stellwagen with O-N at the end. The correct spelling of the area is as E-N at the end of the word. So just make sure your final files have that correct spelling. So I'm going to click OK there. And now, just like we did for the second map, for the third map, we have to update our layers. So going back to our main QGIS window, I'm going to uncheck total fisherman days, and now I'm going to go back and check port impacts Stellwagen. So again, for all of these layers, make sure that you have symbolized the correct attribute, right, for all three of these maps so far. If you've done all of the other steps properly, our port impacts for our first map, the attribute was total quantity of fish. For the second map, the port impacts were total fisherman days. All right, for this third map, it's the port impacts Stellwagen layer, and then the attribute that is being symbolized here is percent Stell. So I've checked this one. I'm going to toggle back to my layout manager, and I'm going to refresh the view here. All right, same thing again. Everything is updated, and now we just need to edit our legend names. So select our legend, and then go to the items property window, and then double click the name of the item here. So we're going to call this layer percentage of fisherman days worked in Stellwagen. So that updates here. Now we're ready to export, and this is just going to keep the same name here that you named it a couple steps ago. You're going to click save, and it exports. And now you are ready to open up your StoryMap. Always a good idea to save your project before you close. So now that you've exported your 3 maps, we're ready to put this into your story map. So you're going to log into ArcGIS Online and create a story map just like you've learned in previous lessons. And we're calling this Community Fisheries Management in New England. Here I'm just opening up the example story map that I've already posted, but yours will look something like this too. So you've got your introductory section here, and then you've got a write-up about part 1, and then you're going to see that you have a swipe here. And this is a swipe that shows the two maps that you made to show port impacts. The left side of the map shows port's total quantity of fish, and then the right side of the map shows the port's total fisherman days. All right, so that's the nice little interactive feature here called a swipe. And even though it's not an interactive web map, the image itself is interactive, and you did make the maps in QGIS. So we're going to do that one. So you're going to put your first two map images into this swipe. The third map is going to go into this next section here, which you did for the work in for part 2. So for part 1 and part 2, make sure you read the description here. It's going to tell you what you should put in. You're going to have to put in some of your analysis about, which port has caught the most fish, which port works the most fisherman days, and how much fish they caught, how many fisherman days they worked, right? That sort of thing. All right, so our part 2 here, it just has an embedded map image. So this is just like you're adding an image and you just add it from your computer. All right, so how do we do that? I'm just going to put it in here real quick and show you how that works. So when you're ready to add those maps, you click plus here to add a content block. And for the first 2 maps where you swipe, you're going to choose this swipe option. So swipe, and you're not going to choose add web map because you didn't do this assignment in ArcGIS Online. You're actually going to use the add image option here for both sides. So on the left side of the map, you're going to choose the total quantity of fish by port image, and you click add image and just find where it is in your computer. In this case, you can either browse your files or you can drag and drop and place it in there. You click add, and then we've got the left side image, and then you're going to click add image for the right side map. You click add, and we've got the same thing here. So here's our nice little swipe that we've got. All right. Now you'll see that some of this area is cut off here. So what you should do, we need to change the settings here. So click the gearbox here for options, and instead of doing fill, we're going to do fit, because we do not want the story map to crop our image, because then we don't see the whole image. All right, click save, and now we can see our whole image. So make sure you change that settings to the do not crop option. And then it's set on the smallest option here. I think we can change that to medium just to make it a little easier to look at, because that's the only thing on this line of the page. And once you do that, you're done. All right, so let's scroll down, and when you add the third image, this should be very easy because you've added images, photographs, and other story maps, but you really are just adding an image. Make sure that you're not clicking add a map. You are adding an image because you didn't do this assignment in ArcGIS Online. You just have the map image saved on your computer. So you're going to browse your files, or you're going to drag and drop that image into here. So you add that image, and you're going to click add, and there you go. And we can change that to be different size also. All right, so just again, another reminder, when you add, make sure you're not adding map, because then it's going to look in your ArcGIS Online account, and you're not going to see this because you did the work in QGIS. And that's it. There you have it. You've got your swipe and your your third map here. Make sure you follow the rest of the instructions for what you should write about. I want to know, if it's asking for some numbers, like, which port depended the most on Stellwagen and which port just did the most fisherman days overall. This is between part 1 and part 2 of the project. Make sure you write that up too. All right, thanks.